When the world first heard that Hulk Hogan had been found dead inside his Florida mansion, it felt like the end of an era. The wrestling icon, whose name had become a symbol of strength and charisma, was gone. News spread fast, and fans across the globe mourned a man they grew up admiring. But soon, whispers began to rise. Something about his death didn't feel right. The official story said it was a heart attack, but behind that explanation, investigators found details that didn't quite make sense. From a strangely spotless gym to disabled security systems and even a secret hidden room, what the authorities discovered inside his home opened up a trail of chilling questions no one expected. It all started on the morning of July 24, 2025. Reports came in from Clearwater, Florida, saying that Hulk Hogan, born Terry Jean Bollee, had been found unresponsive in his mansion. He was 71 years old. The first emergency call was a frantic 911 report of cardiac arrest. Paramedics arrived quickly and began trying to restart his heart, but every attempt failed. By 11:17 a.m., doctors at Morton Plant Hospital confirmed that he was gone. Fans were shocked. The man who had once represented superhuman power and unstoppable energy had fallen silent. At first, everything seemed straightforward. The medical examiner confirmed the cause of death as an acute myocardial infarction, a heart attack. The report classified his death as natural, and most people accepted that. After all, Hogan was in his 70s. His body had gone through decades of extreme physical strain. Years of wrestling, traveling, and surgeries had taken their toll. It seemed believable that his heart could finally give out after everything he had endured. But as more information came to light, the simple explanation began to look less convincing. Hogan's medical history showed deeper problems. He had been living with leukemia, a serious blood condition, and atrial fibrillation, which causes the heart to beat irregularly. Both illnesses increased his risk of sudden cardiac arrest. It painted the picture of a man who had been quietly fighting personal battles behind his confident public image. Still, even with these health issues, something about his death didn't fit. He had been seen training not long before he died. People close to him said he looked healthier than ever. His wife, Sky Daly, often talked about how disciplined he had become. He meditated, ate clean, and exercised daily. He seemed calm and content, far removed from the chaos of his wrestling years. So how could someone so seemingly at peace with his life be gone so suddenly? When police entered his mansion, they noticed that the scene didn't quite add up. The place looked too organized, too calm. They decided to take a closer look. Because of Hogan's fame and the unusual circumstances, the Clearwater Police Department began a detailed investigation. They gathered witness statements, medical records, and any possible clues that could explain what had happened. While they didn't dispute the heart attack conclusion, they did note that there were unique details about the situation. They called it unusual, and that word was enough to spark interest everywhere. Soon, the FBI became involved. Normally, federal agents wouldn't investigate a natural death, but in this case, they were asked to confirm that everything was as it seemed. Their job was to look for irregularities that might have been overlooked. This decision immediately drew attention. Fans and journalists started asking questions. Could there be more to the story? As tributes poured in from around the world, the official explanation seemed simple enough. Hulk Hogan had died from a heart attack. Yet, beneath that version of events, investigators found signs that pointed toward something deeper. Why did the police call the scene unusual? Why was the FBI brought in for a routine case? And what exactly did they find inside his mansion? When investigators entered Hogan's private gym, the place he had called his sanctuary, they were immediately struck by how it looked. The gym was spotless. Every weight was perfectly arranged, the equipment gleamed, and the floor mats looked untouched. For a man who was known to work out daily, it seemed odd that there wasn't a single towel, water bottle, or sign of recent activity. It didn't look like a gym that had been used recently. It looked staged, almost as if someone had cleaned it up deliberately before calling for help. This discovery made the team suspicious. Why would someone clean up a workout space right before or after a medical emergency? Their attention quickly turned to Hogan's home security. He was known to take safety seriously. His mansion had an advanced system with cameras, alarms, and motion detectors. Everything was connected to a central control panel with backup power to prevent tampering. Yet, when investigators checked, they found the entire system had been turned off manually. There hadn't been a power outage or a technical malfunction. Someone inside the house had gone to the control panel and shut it down on purpose. Whoever did it knew the system well enough to disable it without triggering alerts. What made this even stranger was that there were no signs of forced entry anywhere, no broken windows, no damaged locks, nothing missing. This created two possibilities: either Hogan himself had turned off the system, or someone he trusted enough to enter the house had done it. The thought of Hogan willingly switching off his security seemed strange because he was known to be cautious. He rarely invited anyone over without notice, and he valued his privacy deeply. Because of these unusual findings, the case was handed over entirely to the FBI. Specialists in cybercrime and digital forensics examined Hogan's home systems. They wanted to know exactly when and by whom the security had been disabled. Smart home systems often record every action when cameras are turned off, alarms disarmed, or lights adjusted. These digital footprints could help build a timeline. They also looked into his smart home devices, lighting systems, thermostats, even digital assistants. Every small action might help them piece together the hours before his death. Yet, despite the detailed search, the results were frustrating. They confirmed that the system had been switched off manually, but there was no clear evidence pointing to who did it. There were no signs of hacking or remote interference. The data showed the change had been made locally, meaning someone physically present in the house had done it. With the technical clues offering no definite answer, investigators turned their attention to Hogan's personal life. They began reviewing his recent communications, hoping that someone he had spoken to might hold a clue. It was then that they discovered something that changed the direction of the case: a mysterious phone call that had come just days before his death. According to reports, 3 days before he died, Hogan received a late-night phone call that left him visibly shaken. His wife, Sky Daly, later told investigators that she had never seen him so disturbed. Normally calm and confident, Hogan appeared pale, nervous, and deeply unsettled after answering the call. He didn't say much about what was discussed, but his reaction said everything. He looked frightened, something rare for a man who had faced everything from brutal matches to public scandals. Investigators traced the call and quickly realized it wasn't ordinary. It had been routed through multiple international servers, bouncing from one country to another. Every time they tried to follow the trail, it led to another dead end. Whoever made that call had gone to great lengths to hide their identity. It was not the work of an amateur. The level of sophistication suggested someone with serious technical knowledge and resources. The FBI considered several possibilities. Perhaps it was a threat. Maybe someone was trying to blackmail him. Another theory was that it was connected to private information Hogan might have had or something from his past that he wanted to keep buried. No matter the reason, one thing was clear: the call was deliberate, and it had left a lasting mark on him. According to Sky Daly, Hogan said very little during the call. He listened, spoke briefly, and then hung up. He didn't argue or ask questions. It was as though whatever he heard was something he already knew or had been expecting. That silence haunted his wife afterward. The timing of the call was especially concerning. Coming only 3 days before his death, it fit neatly into the mysterious timeline investigators were building. For months, Hogan's life had seemed peaceful. He had been healing, staying active, and spending more time with his family. There was nothing to suggest trouble. Yet suddenly, after that phone call, everything changed. When the FBI analyzed the digital records of the call, they discovered it had been routed through advanced proxy systems that masked the true origin. This was the kind of method used by groups who didn't want to be tracked by law enforcement. It wasn't random, it was planned. The call became one of the most critical pieces of the investigation. It wasn't just about who made it, but why. Investigators wondered whether it had frightened Hogan so much that it caused stress severe enough to trigger his heart attack. Or, more disturbingly, whether the call had been part of something larger, something that led to the strange signs found inside his home. As the investigation continued, People close to Hogan remembered more small details that now seemed important. In the days after that phone call, Hogan appeared distracted. He would sometimes stop mid-sentence or stare into the distance, as if lost in thought. Friends said he had started locking certain rooms in his mansion, which he had never done before. He also began keeping his phone near him at all times, refusing to let anyone else use it. The man who had once been the fearless face of wrestling now seemed to be living in quiet fear. Even his wife noticed he was checking the windows and doors more often, as if expecting something. She thought he was just being overly cautious, but now it seemed like he might have known something no one else did. The official reports never fully explained these final days. The heart attack remained the medical cause of death, but the mystery surrounding what led up to it never went away. Fans mourned him, but investigators were left with fragments of clues: a spotless gym, a disabled security system, and a phone call from nowhere. Each detail on its own meant little, but together they painted a haunting picture of a man who may have sensed that something was coming. To the world, Hulk Hogan's death was the end of a wrestling legend. But to those who saw what was left behind, it was the beginning of questions that might never be answered. A man who once stood as the symbol of strength had fallen in silence, leaving behind a mystery that even time struggles to explain. In the days before his death, Hulk Hogan's life seemed calm and steady. He was focused on his health, his marriage, and enjoying the quieter side of life. But everything appeared to change after one mysterious phone call that came late at night. Those close to him said that before the call, Hogan had been cheerful and in good spirits. Afterward, he became distant and uneasy. His wife, Sky Daly, said she had never seen him so shaken. The content of that call remains classified, but investigators believe it marked a turning point that may have influenced everything that followed. To understand why one call could have affected him so deeply, they began digging into his past, his relationships, and the complex web of family drama that had surrounded him for decades. Behind Hulk Hogan's fame and success was a life that had not always been peaceful. His family life had been turbulent, filled with heartbreak, broken trust, and strained relationships. For investigators, his family history was not just gossip, it was a potential key to understanding whether someone close to him might have been connected to his sudden death. Hogan's first marriage began in 1983 when he married Linda Claridge. They had 2 children, Brooke and Nick, and for years, they seemed like the perfect family. The public adored them, especially after their reality TV show Hogan Knows Best premiered in 2005. The show portrayed a strong, happy family, and fans loved seeing Hogan as a devoted father who balanced his wrestling fame with being a family man. But behind the cameras, things were much different. In 2007, stories about Hogan's infidelity began to surface. A woman who worked with his daughter Brooke claimed that she had been involved with him. Hogan denied the accusations, but his marriage began to fall apart. That same year, Linda filed for divorce, ending 24 years of marriage. The divorce was messy and public. The accusations on both sides were painful, and the separation left Hogan emotionally broken. He later admitted that during that time, he fell into a deep depression and even had thoughts of taking his own life. After years of personal struggle, Hogan tried to rebuild his life. In 2010, he married Jennifer McDaniel in a private ceremony. For a while, it looked like he had finally found stability. The marriage lasted more than a decade, but in 2021, it ended quietly. This time, there were no dramatic fights or media scandals, just a silent end to another chapter of his personal life. Even though the separation was more peaceful, it reinforced the idea that lasting happiness always seemed to slip away from him. In 2023, Hogan married again, this time to Sky Daly, a yoga instructor who entered his life unexpectedly but brought him calmness and balance. They married after only a few months of dating, and many people doubted whether it would last. But Hogan seemed genuinely happy. He often said Sky helped him focus on mindfulness, meditation, and staying healthy. For the first time in years, he looked like he had found peace. But not everyone shared his joy. His daughter Brooke was absent from the wedding and had been distant from her father for a long time. Their relationship had grown cold, partly due to the public scandals that surrounded Hogan, including a leaked private tape that had humiliated the family years earlier. Although Brooke occasionally spoke respectfully about her father, it was clear that the closeness they once had was gone. After Hogan's death, the family tension resurfaced in a shocking way. Reports revealed that Brooke had been completely removed from his will, while his son Nick was named the only heir to his nearly $5 million estate. The decision shocked fans and raised many questions. Why would a father leave one child everything and exclude the other entirely? Some believed it reflected their broken relationship, while others suspected deeper family conflicts. For investigators, that detail was hard to ignore. Disputes over inheritance often lead to resentment or worse, and the decision to leave Brooke out entirely made the FBI consider whether family tensions might have played a hidden role in his final days. Though there was no direct proof of foul play, agents noted that unresolved anger or financial disputes sometimes create dangerous emotional pressure. Throughout his life, Hogan had struggled not only with physical pain from wrestling but also with emotional wounds. During his divorce from Linda, he had spoken openly about his depression and his thoughts of suicide. Those who knew him said that while Sky Daily helped him find stability, old scars never fully healed. Even decades later, the emotional toll of his past might have affected his choices and his peace of mind. But the investigation didn't stop with his personal life. There were also medical factors that could not be ignored. By the time he reached his 70s, Hogan's body had endured years of brutal wear and tear. Wrestling had taken a heavy toll on him. He had undergone more than 20 surgical procedures throughout his career, repairing injuries to his back, knees, hips, and shoulders. His determination to stay active came at a cost. On May 14, 2025, Hogan underwent one of his most serious surgeries, a 4-level anterior cervical discectomy and fusion, a complicated procedure that involved removing damaged discs in his neck and fusing the vertebrae together. Doctors said it was necessary to relieve pressure on his spinal nerves. While the surgery went well, it was extremely risky for someone his age. Medical experts explained that procedures like this can affect nerves that control breathing, such as the phrenic nerve. If that nerve is damaged, it can cause sudden respiratory failure. Some reports later suggested that Hogan's phrenic nerve might have been affected during surgery, though no official confirmation was ever made. Rumors began to circulate about his condition soon after. A radio personality known as Bubba the Love Sponge claimed on air that Hogan was in critical condition and might not survive. The rumor spread quickly, worrying fans everywhere. But Sky Daily publicly denied those claims, saying Hogan was recovering, his heart was strong, and his spirit remained positive. She said he was already walking around, eating well, and even smiling again. In the weeks that followed, Hogan tried to prove to the world that he was fine. He appeared in photos, met fans, and even returned to his home gym to train. Friends said he was motivated and determined to recover. But medical experts later said that complications from such a complex surgery can appear suddenly, even weeks or months after. When Hogan's body was found in July, investigators remembered that surgery. Although the official cause of death was listed as a heart attack, they quietly considered whether surgical complications might have played a role. If his breathing had suddenly failed due to nerve damage, it could have triggered cardiac arrest. That would mean his death wasn't just from age or illness, but from the long-term effects of surgery. Still, while examining these medical possibilities, investigators made a discovery inside Hogan's home that changed everything. During a second forensic sweep of his mansion, they found a hidden room in the basement. It was tucked behind what looked like an ordinary wall, so well concealed that it wasn't even listed in the house's property records. Whoever created it had gone to great lengths to keep it secret. Inside, agents found neatly arranged files. Each was labeled and stacked carefully, containing financial documents, medical records, and what looked like personal communications. Some files were dated as recently as the day before his death. That meant someone had been in the room right before he died, possibly Hogan himself. Most of the documents looked normal, but a few stood out. Some appeared to include references to people or organizations not connected to his public life. Others hinted at private communications or transactions that raised suspicions of blackmail or threats. The FBI refused to disclose the full contents, but their silence spoke volumes. The mystery deepened. News of the secret room spread quickly, and fans began to speculate. Some believed Hogan had been keeping sensitive information that could have put him in danger. Others thought the files were simply personal records that had nothing to do with his death. Still, the discovery added a layer of mystery that no one could ignore. For Hogan's family, the hidden room brought both pain and confusion. They wanted answers about why it existed and what was inside, but they also struggled to reconcile this secret side of his life with the man they thought they knew. To the public, he had been an open book. To those closest to him, it now seemed he had still kept many secrets. As the investigation continued, the world was left with more questions than answers. Hogan's death officially remained ruled as a heart attack, but the strange circumstances, the spotless gym, the disabled security system, the mysterious phone call, the surgery, and now the hidden room made it difficult to accept that it was just a simple medical event. For millions of fans, Hulk Hogan's passing marked the end of an era. He wasn't just a wrestler, he was a cultural icon who shaped an entire generation's love for wrestling. From his legendary match against Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3 to his appearances on TV and in movies, Hogan had become a global symbol of strength and charisma. His influence paved the way for modern superstars like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and John Cena, who both credited him for turning wrestling into mainstream entertainment. Even those who didn't follow wrestling knew who Hulk Hogan was: the bandana, the mustache, the voice, and the larger-than-life personality. He inspired countless people with his confidence and positivity. That's why his sudden and mysterious death hit fans so hard. Still, questions linger. Why did the security system at his house get turned off just before his death? Who made that unsettling phone call? And what was really inside that secret room? The FBI has continued to investigate, but as of now, they have not released a final conclusion. Meanwhile, Sky Daily, his widow, has suggested that she may pursue legal action against the hospital where he had his surgery. She believes that a surgical mistake, possibly nerve damage, might have caused his sudden heart failure. The case has not yet gone to court, but it adds another layer of complexity to an already mysterious story. Financially, Hogan left behind an estate worth nearly $5 million, with everything going to his son Nick. His daughter Brooke's exclusion only deepened public curiosity and made the family's grief even more painful under the public eye. The investigation into his death remains open, and federal agents continue to study digital records, interview witnesses, and analyze medical findings. Every delay in releasing a final report only fuels speculation. For fans around the world, the story of Hulk Hogan's life and death feels unfinished. On one hand, he was a man whose body finally gave out after decades of pushing it beyond its limits. On the other, there are hints of secrets, fear, and unanswered questions that make people wonder if something more happened behind closed doors. In Clearwater, Florida, murals of Hulk Hogan still stand proudly. His fans still chant his name at wrestling events, and his iconic image lives on in pop culture. But behind the bright colors and smiling pictures, a shadow remains, a feeling that his final days hold a truth that no one has fully uncovered. Whether his death was purely natural or tied to something darker, the world may never know. But one thing is certain: Hulk Hogan's legacy will never fade, even as the mystery of his last moments continues to haunt those who admired him.